Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another edition of the London Divide. And it's been a mixed start to the week for Chelsea and Arsenal fans. Obviously, the Blues getting a much-needed win in the West London derby against Fulham on Monday night, but Arsenal coming back down to reality in the Champions League following that 4-0 thrashing of PSV on the opening day. Went down 2-1 away in Lons with a disappointing performance, a disappointing defeat, and an injury to star man Bukayo Saka. So all in all, a pretty poor night for Mikel Arteta's men, but there's loads to dive into as always, people. You've got the games themselves. We're looking ahead to a big weekend for Arsenal hosting Man City on Sunday at the Emirates. Chelsea heading to Burnley. All the VAR controversies as well. We're going to dive into loads of stuff. So Webby, makes a bit of a change to be talking slightly more positive about Chelsea this week than Arsenal so far. One place to start though, Champions League last night. Obviously, as I said, you got the good start with the 4-0 smashing of PSV in the opening match day. I was expecting you boys to win last night. I know Champions League away games are never easy, but Lens, who were a decent side last season, lost some of their better players over the summer. Not started the best in France this season. They're 15th so far. They're probably better than that, but it's not been a good start. You go a goal up through Jesus, and then it kind of fell apart. I mean, how would you look at that performance? Is any worrying signs, or you just put it down to sort of one of those bad days at the office, and maybe this group needs to learn a little bit about European away games?
Yeah, I think probably summed it up there, mate. It was really, really, really disappointing night from Arsenal's point of view, with by far the strongest team in that group in our domestic league and on paper, however way you want to look at it, we should be winning that group. And it was really disappointing for us as fans to lose, really. I think, like you said, it's a big learning curve for the team. Rice said that after the game. He was pretty much the only player that stood out on the night and had a good game. Going 1-0 up as well, you expect to control the game away from home. We've been playing well away from home, but didn't take our chances. Sloppy at the back. Really intense atmosphere at Lon. It was I wasn't there, but listening on TV and seeing some of the fans out there, it sounded like absolutely raucous, unbelievable atmosphere. And we didn't deal with the situation very well. Obviously, losing Saka was a big blow and really, really damaged our kind of sharpness up front. So, yeah, a lot of work to do. And it's another 3 weeks until we can put things right. We play Sevilla away next, which is going to be another tough game. You know how strong Sevilla are in Europe. So, disappointing and yeah, a little while for us to put it right in Europe.
I mean, what disappointed you most about the performance, mate? Obviously, because as you said, only really Declan Rice stood out. I only watched the highlights, so I obviously didn't really get a full feel for the game. But what disappointed you the most? Because as I said, you went a goal up. Do you think you mismanaged the game? Like, was Arteta's in-game management not up to scratch, or was it just one of those where you didn't really know how to manage the occasion?
Yeah, we lost control. So the Saka injury was frustrating, but when we went 1-0 up, we had full control of the game. For about a 20-minute period, we were knocking the ball about, quieting the crowd down, and we had a big chat last week about Raya Ramsdale. I'm not a fan that wants to start some sort of like mass debate every time, but if you've seen Lon's first goal, Raya played a terrible pass out to the right, aiming for Tomiyasu, but he played it short and played it, I think, narrow or wide, and their winger ran onto it. And they, don't get me wrong, it was an unbelievable finish, but just a poor mistake. You know, you can't be conceding that goal. Second goal, again, defensively, Zinchenko got caught out of position. We're in a pretty innocuous situation. Zinchenko got caught in no man's land. Bang, they're on us. Again, a fantastic finish. But probably one of the most disappointing things for me, again, and I say this a lot about Arsenal, is being clinical. Like Tomiyasu had a huge chance. Tomiyasu had a huge chance at 1-1, 1-1 when they equalised, to go down the other end, make it 2-1 from a corner, straight at the keeper. Trossard had a 1-on-1 in the second half, couldn't put it away. We had a couple of chances at the end, and it's like, especially European away when it's tough, you can't, you got to take your chances, man. And if you're conceding chance at one end, not taking them at the other, Arteta said it, clinical in both boxes. That's what disappointed me the most.
Yeah, mate, you don't need to tell me about being clinical in the opposition box, mate. We create so many chances. Obviously, Monday night was a bit different, but this has been a story of our season so far. The last few years, we just we're not clinical in the opposition box where it really matters the most. Defensively, we're actually pretty good. We don't concede many goals. But I mean, a couple of things, mate. We talked about it last week about, is Bukayo Saka playing too much? Should he be rotated a little bit more? He starts again last night. Again, it could have been a game you potentially maybe not needed to start him in with Man City on Sunday. He picked up an injury in the Spurs game, but was fine for Bournemouth. He's obviously come off again in this game. I guess there's not really been any update that I've come across. I don't know if you know any differently, but I guess a big indication of his fitness will be whether he's named in the England squad tomorrow. But how big a concern is that injury to you? Because you've improved the squad depth in certain areas of the pitch, but the one place you don't have any depth or really top quality cover is a replacement for Bukayo Saka.
Yeah, we don't. And to be honest, I'm not sure there's many players in world football that can replace Bukayo Saka. And it's a huge concern. Basically they've come out and there's leaks that it's a minor hamstring. But minor hamstrings are still hamstrings, right? They're worrying. I still go back to, like, there's a whole load of our fan base that fully believe that Saka shouldn't have played, basically. Simple as. I don't agree with that. I think the club have got all the resources to make that decision. And I don't think the club would put Saka in jeopardy of injury if it wasn't needed. Like, they're not that stupid ahead of Man City. Last night was a huge game. We've worked years to get back in the Champions League. You pick your best team if they're fit and available. If there's a conversation to be had, it's probably about the fact that we don't have a Saka replacement. Personally, I'd like to see Jesus used on the right a bit more and play Eddie through the middle. So last night when Saka went off, he could have put Jesus on the right, Eddie through the middle, and that could give Saka a bit of a rest by using Jesus on the wing a bit more. But Arteta doesn't seem to want to do that much. So
yeah, I mean, obviously there's no update yet. He could miss the Man City game potentially, which would be a massive blow. Question about Kai Havertz, mate. Again, seems to always be a conversation. Against Bournemouth, he obviously got given the penalty, put it away. They're obviously all clearly delighted for him. You could tell by pushing him over to the crowds at the end of the game. Obviously, you were there, so you would have obviously seen it firsthand. Last night, like many Arsenal players, a disappointing performance. He's still finding his feet in this team. Has the view changed on him much since the start of the season? He's still not really, from my opinion, he's still not doing enough to justify his place in the team.
Yeah, I still stand by what I said last week. It's just interesting, like, getting comments on this, for example. Everyone's obsessed with Havertz. Like, Alex Eklund, a football fan, can't get Kai Havertz out his mouth, as per most neutral fans. So my opinion is the same. He played well at Bournemouth. He was part of a very functioning team. Last night, he didn't play great, but he was part of a team that played awful, and you could point out to 9 or 10 of them. The price tag was hefty. He's always going to come under that scrutiny, but I just think he needs time to settle into the role. He's been asked to play that kind of like advanced midfield left 8/second striker kind of hybrid role, which seems like quite a tough role to play. He's not really played it in that system before. I still back him to come good. It was great to see him get his first goal on Sunday. I wouldn't judge too much because last night, I'll be honest with you, mate, 10 out of the 11 were rubbish. So it's like Havertz ain't going to shine in that last night. But I completely agree. We do need to see more from him, more product, and I back that to come.
Do you think Arteta's like just consistently picking him because if he thinks if he just keeps picking him, he'll play him into form, or do you think he actually likes what he sees? Obviously, publicly, he's not going to come out and say he's not impressed with Havertz or whatever. I don't think he's that sort of a manager to do that. But surely, like, this is a guy that he believes, and this is a guy that he spent big money on to bring to the club. No one expected it to happen. Even for him, I'm not saying this is going to define his career or anything like that, Arteta, but Arteta, not for the sake of his Arsenal career, but he needs this to work. You know, the club have backed him big time on this. This is his choice. This is his player. He had this unique role for him that no one else really saw. He desperately needs this to work.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. He does need it to work. He's putting a lot of faith in Havertz at the moment. I'll just go back to the point. I think he's playing him in a position that a lot of people aren't convinced is going to get the best out of him at the moment.
Where would you like to see him play for Arsenal? Do you actually want to see him there, or would you rather see him somewhere else?
Well, I was quite keen when we signed him, and seeing him play in the Community Shield as well. He played really well as like in the number 9 position up front, almost like offering another option to Jesus and Nketiah. But Arteta kind of hasn't really used him now. I don't know whether a couple of injuries means he's shuffled the team around. Like, for example, on Sunday, we might see, with Partey fit, we might see the midfield 3 back to Rice, Partey and Odegaard. Because I do agree. I thought on Sunday Havertz had a great game at Bournemouth. He played really well in that position.
Bournemouth are shocking, by the way, aren't they? They are awful.
He's in a team that are dominating, so it's easier. So yeah, I wanted to see him used. I'd like to see him used a bit more in that more attacking option. At the moment, like you said, it's not really clicking for him in that forward left 8. But yeah, it seems like we're still learning, we're developing as a team, and yeah, the manager's going to back him. But it does need to work out, because if we do go, well, if this transfer doesn't work out, yeah, it's a lot of money on another player from Chelsea.
And it'll be pretty, yeah. I mean, obviously we're going a little bit further down the line here, but if it doesn't work out, it's going to be hard to shift him, because that would have been 2 big clubs in the Premier League. Yeah. It just hasn't worked out at all. But I mean, yeah, look, I mean, one thing that I've seen a little bit on Arsenal Twitter, having a little look, is Arteta's lack of rotation is now kind of finally catching up with him in terms of fatigue. I guess like kind of last season you could get away with it a little bit, or the last 2 seasons, because there's not really been any Europe, or you've had the ability to go with a weaker squad sort of in the Europa League and stuff. Whereas now you've got Champions League, you're playing sort of 3 serious games a week from September onwards to the first time. And you've now picked up a couple of hamstring injuries to players, amongst others. And fatigue catches up with everyone in the end. So surely something's got to give a little bit. You know, rotation. You need to make rotations. Change the starting 11 for at some point. And one team that rotates really well. And I know they've got a better squad than you and everyone else, but City do such a great job at rotating their squad heavily. But again, not having as good a squad as them can't really be an excuse, can it? You know, Arteta's obviously bought all these players. Do you think it's time for him? I mean, injury is obviously the worst way to kind of fall out of contention, particularly maybe if you can control a lot of the factors that maybe cause them. Do you think Arteta needs to get smarter with his players and actually start rotating more? Because you are playing a lot of games, and a lot of important games, more than you've done over the last few seasons. Do you think he needs to rotate more and get smarter with his team selections?
Yeah, probably does. Probably next step for him to improve as a still a young and I guess inexperienced manager, isn't he? Really, we've kind of got away with it over the last, well, without Europe recently, and having Europa League. But Arteta has never been one to chop and change. I think he needs to trust the squad he's got a bit more. He, like you just made the point, he signed these players now, and he needs to put the trust in them. There's still a fair amount of players not getting that many minutes. You look at the likes of Reece Nelson, Emil Smith-Rowe, who's just come back into contention, even Fabio Vieira. There's players there that don't get the minutes that a lot of fans think they deserve. So I think it's inevitable. We haven't got a choice. We can't go from now until Easter playing the same 11, 12, 13 players. It's impossible. City do it exceptionally well, don't they? You said that. They do it so well. They have got better players, but it's Arteta's job to get more out of the crop he's got and trust those boys and find solutions and find combinations that work, so you can go to RC Lens away and get the 3 points whilst potentially giving players a rest. As I said, I don't think he was wrong not to rotate last night. It was a big match for us, first Champions League away game. But it's going to play a huge part in the season, mate.
No, mate, it absolutely is going to play a massive part. I mean, do you think that perhaps the reason why he's not rotating as much is because he doesn't trust enough of the squad players to do a job? Or because he just wants to get more consistency with his first choice 11. But then I suppose you run the risk of, if you keep picking their 11 and then when players get injured, those other guys that are going to have to come in aren't up to speed, don't have the sort of the minutes in the tank, as it were. Why do you think he's not doing much rotation? Do you think it's a trust issue, or you just think he wants to get his first 11 as good as possible?
Yeah, I think it's a trust thing. Like, we had so much success in the first half of last season, basically picking the same side week in, week out, didn't we? From like August through to the new year, we pretty much played the same side. You could name that exact side, 1 to 11, every week. And then we got hit in the face really hard when a couple of injuries happened. So Arteta has always been quite rigid in his team selections. He's historically shown that. And I think it does definitely need to improve, because the moment you get a couple of injuries, the moment you do go a bit deeper in a competition and there's players getting miles in their legs, you start to suffer. But he's also always goes on, Arteta always says about how if you're a top player, you have to play Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday. You have to do that. So he demands a lot of his players, but yeah, trusting more. The likes of Reece, the likes of Emil Smith-Rowe, the likes of Fabio Vieira. These boys have to be trusted. It can't just be Saka week in, week out. It just can't.
No, mate, no, it absolutely can't be. Some of those boys do need to be trusted more. Before we move on to Chelsea, mate, Gabriel Jesus, we talked about him a little bit last week, not really being the sort of player that's going to score you 20 goals. That he's not going to be the kind of player that's going to fire you to a Premier League title. But having said that, he's come into a bit of goal-scoring form recently. I mean, is that potentially like, well, obviously it's good for Arsenal, but I mean, do you think he can push on this season and maybe add more goals?
Yeah, no doubt about that. His goal last night was quality. If you've seen it, it was a fantastic take and finish, albeit from an opposition mistake. He still had a lot of work to do. He's had notoriously good form in Europe, hasn't he? Showed that for City in the Champions League. He's a top class player. He really is. It's interesting because sometimes the complicated finishes he does well, and it's the simpler finishes, i.e. Arsenal v Tottenham, blaze it over the bar, that he kind of doesn't do so well. So if he keeps working hard, all it takes is a couple of those simple ones to go in, and he gets on a roll. But he's such a good player, so important, and it was good to see him get that goal last night, albeit in a losing situation, which was disappointing. But we're going to need him big time on Sunday, mate. Big game against City, and if we're gonna finally beat them in the Premier League, Gabriel Jesus is going to need to have a stormer, isn't he?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll get onto that game in a little bit. But for Chelsea, finally a second win of the season. Out of 7 games, not what we would have expected, but much needed. Back-to-back wins if you include the Carabao Cup game. Back-to-back clean sheets as well. And for me, for the first time in a while, it looks like the performance came together. That was our best performance of the season, particularly that first half. Admittedly, Fulham were poor. They didn't offer much, but that we've had that before. Where we struggled to break teams down. We lacked that cutting edge in the final third. I thought we were brilliant, particularly in that first half. Mudryk was great, got his first goal. Levi Colwill was really good at left back. Enzo and Caicedo probably had their best game together in midfield. Just a little subtle change from Pochettino. He had been employing Enzo Fernandez as more of that number 10, but he switched him, pivot with Caicedo, and then had Gallagher pressing from the front in that more advanced role. The balance of the midfield looks so much better, and it's no surprise that we put in our best performance of the season. And great to see Amanda Broja getting a goal as well. He's been out for a long time. A little bit lucky, of course. The clearance was kicked back onto him and it went in, but he was there, right place, right time. Cole Palmer had a very good game. So it was one of them games where, I'm sure you've had them as well, mate, where you come away from it at the end and you're like, no one actually played badly. There wasn't one person on the pitch that you thought, hey, they were shit today, or they had a tough time. Mate, you watched it on TV. I was there. We've talked about Mudryk before. He gets his first goal. Obviously, went off at half-time, felt something in his thigh. It's going to be touch and go whether he's fit for the weekend. It's not anything major, but, we haven't had the full update from the club on that one yet. But, mate, we've said it. You believe in him. I certainly believe in him. And it's amazing, all I've wanted is a run of games for this guy, any young player. Give him a run of games, allow them to make mistakes in the game, allow them to, grow as a player. And we're seeing that with Mudryk now. He seems to have got Pochettino's trust. He started the last 4 games. he's creating chances, and obviously finally he got his goal against Fulham, and I think he's starting to show people what sort of a player he is now. And I guess, I mean, I don't want to say it was only a matter of time because you never know, but I guess it just goes to show that when you've got young players, if you just give them trust, they will repay it.
Yeah, I think it was. I think you're right. I think it was a matter of time before he got a goal. Well, he was going to get a goal eventually, wasn't he? But I think it's a matter of time before he bursts onto the scene and starts showing people how good he is. Like, you got to think all the way back to his debut at Anfield, mate. He absolutely lit the place up for half an hour. Absolutely lit the place up, and like, you don't do that at his age, new to the Premier League, mate. I've spoken to you loads, and obviously you cover Chelsea every day. Like, he's been part of a ridiculously dysfunctional side, and if you can settle down, and if Chelsea can settle down, and as I said, I watched it on TV, and it just seemed a bit more of a settled, normal, calm Premier League performance, you know. But it had that sprinkle of like electricity up front. I thought Amano Broja looked really good as well. His finishing was rusty, but that's expected. He's been out, but Mudryk provides that spark, and you need that in the Premier League. And he took the goal beautifully. Lovely ball from the left back Colwell, and he took it down and finished it like Mudryk can, and like Mudryk did in the past. And as I said, I wanted him to come to Arsenal. He didn't. I still believe, like I've said on this pod loads, I believe that he's going to do good things in the Premier League, and that probably is just the start on Monday night.
Yeah, no, mate. I think like a lot of Chelsea fans are delighted for him. I mean, I think I probably like him maybe more than a lot of them do. But as you say, mate, you know, I was at Anfield last season when he came on for his debut. You don't do that if you haven't got something about you, you know. Again, I sort of say that as a sort of a blessing and a curse for him, because then suddenly he set the expectation, and then when that level wasn't hit in the subsequent games in a poor side, dysfunctional side, people were thinking like, well, what's happened to this guy? But you know, the reality is, you know, it takes time to settle in, off-field things as well. And I think Pochettino's really taken him under his wing. You know, that he's got a great relationship with him. It's almost like a father-son relationship. You know, he does the crossbar challenge with him in training to try and build his confidence. Like, he does all these little things that you don't really look at. I think like really good man management stuff. And I think Mudryk is ready to step up for Chelsea now. And long may it continue. I think as well, another player we've talked about, mate, Cole Palmer looks a real good player. You know, I watched a bit of him at City. Didn't get you know, a regular run at City. There's no shame in that. Not many players do. I think he's been brilliant for us. You know, he's one of them players, mate, that when you watch him, he's always one that he doesn't shy away from the ball. He always wants to get on the ball. When he gets on the ball, his first instinct is to try and make something happen. He's always looking forward. Gets the assist for the Broja goal. I thought particularly Monday night, you know, I've not noticed it before with him, but he's got a real good eye for turning over possession. He makes a lot of interceptions. I think he's alive. He's got a good footballing intelligence. From what you've seen of him so far, have you been impressed? I knew he was a good player. And when you come from the Pep Guardiola school of football, you know, you're obviously going to have you know, a good grounding. He's been trusted in big games by City. Scored in the Community Shield. Scored in the Super Cup. But did you expect him to start this well? Because I think he's maybe surprised a few people, and a lot of Chelsea fans included, how quickly he's kind of settled in.
Yeah, it's pretty like mature, isn't it, of him to settle quickly. He was very good on Monday. He played interesting. Like, he started off the right, didn't he? But he played pretty central in the game. Like, he almost played like a right-sided, like number 10. I guess.
He drifts in a lot.
Yeah, he didn't play. He played pretty similar, like, space to Gallagher. Like, I watched it, and just watching on TV, he didn't. It's not like he hugged. It's not like he played like Mudryk, kind of hugging the line more on the left. He did drift in field a lot, which probably shows what he's like. Whether he's been instructed to do that, I'm sure he has, but probably shows like his natural instinct is more comfortable in that part of the pitch, and whether Pochettino can get more out of him, because he's got eye for a pass, hasn't he? Got great eye for a pass. Played a couple of lovely through balls. So yeah, it's good signs. Mature performance. Plenty to be excited about for you, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then obviously second half, we kind of shut it down. Didn't really need to do much. Would have been nice to get another goal or two, but it was job done, professional performance, and a confidence starting to build as you head into that Burnley game on Saturday. I mean, from an outside perspective, mate, I mean, obviously we're not getting too carried away as fans. Yeah, it's been a good week with the win against Brighton and then the win against obviously Fulham. But it is only one win in the Premier League, 2 wins in the Premier League. We need to get more. We've got a tough run of fixtures coming up after the international break. Do you think this could be? Do you think this might be the start of Chelsea starting to click into gear, starting to build a little bit of momentum?
Yeah, it could well be. I think a bit of confidence in some of the players. Obviously, Burnley again. Burnley away is going to be another tough fixture, but another more than winnable fixture, isn't it? And if you can do that, all of a sudden you go into the international break and Arsenal, 2 home games against Arsenal and Brentford with a bit of like momentum behind you. So if I'm a Chelsea fan there, I'm looking. It's like so important to back up what you've done against Fulham. It's like if you kind of undo all the good work against Fulham, you then go into the international break coming up against Arsenal with questions again. But if you can get another 3 points under the belt, then I'm sure it's going to be a big couple of games for you at Stamford Bridge, like ahead of that. Well, that's kind of the start of the tough run, isn't it? Arsenal, and you got Brentford at home, then
Newcastle, Spurs, City.
Newcastle,
We've got loads of them coming up. I mean, look, I think again, you always want to win. You always want a good result before the international breaks, and then you've got to sit on it for 2 weeks, and that can't be a good feeling. It's not a good feeling as a fan, so it definitely can't be a good feeling as a player. I just want to quickly talk about officials, just for a little bit. But first things first, we had news today that obviously Reece James has been fined 90k by the FA for abusive language towards an official at in the Chelsea Villa game. The ref was shit, but of course you obviously can't do that. He's been given a one game ban, which will be served immediately, which means he's suspended for the Burnley game this weekend, but he's not playing anyway. So it seems pretty pointless. I mean, I'm not advocating for him to be banned when he's fit, but do you not think it's a bit odd that you're giving out a 1-match ban to an injured player that wasn't going to play in that game anyway? Well, surely, what's the point in that?
Yeah, it's just like the FA. They just do weird stuff. It
doesn't make any sense that 1-match ban that you're not playing in anyway. So
yeah, I know. I guess it's procedure is procedure, isn't it? If they've got to ban him, but then it's not like they can wait and say, right, when you're fit, we'll ban you.
Yeah.
I guess it's just a matter of procedure. Like they got to ban him, but God, he must have yobbed off seriously to get a ban and a 90k fine.
Well, yeah, man. He probably wasn't best pleased, man. I mean, the ref was dog shit in that Chelsea Villa game at the Bridge. He was awful, but I mean, obviously, you can't do that. Of course, you can't do foul and abusive language towards officials. Whatever. I just made me laugh when you see like they could have said it's going to be a 1-match ban from when he's fit. They could have done that. I mean, it probably would have. I don't know. That would have been harsh or not, but yeah, giving out a 1-match ban to an injured player seems pretty pointless. But yeah, by the way, guys, keep running the likes up as well. People, if you've not smashed the like button, make sure you do. It's free. It takes seconds. It really helps the channel out as an easy way to support myself. So make sure you hit that like button, guys. Let's get to at least 50 million, another 20 likes. So if you're locked in now and you've not smashed that like button, make sure you do that, guys. It's free, it's easy to do, and hit the subscribe button as well if you are new around here. But let's run those likes up. Mate, VAR officials. It's not been a good weekend. It's back in the sort of the main media again. I couldn't believe they were talking about it on Good Morning Britain, which is kind of mad. Never thought I'd hear refereeing decisions being spoken about on news programs, but that's kind of where we are. They released the audio for it yesterday, mate. I like the transparency. I like the openness from Howard Webb, but you're setting a precedent where every bad decision, every club is now going to be demanding the audio released, because you can't just do it for one team and then not do it for anyone else. So they're going to have to do that for everyone now. Do you know what the biggest thing for me is, mate? Is that one, why is the replay operator fucking seeming like the main guy? Why is he the one that's calling that's kind of calling it out? Secondly, the VAR's made a mistake, right? What's the assistant guy doing? What's the assistant VAR doing? Why is he's there to make sure that everything's all right and back the decision up? Why doesn't he step in? And then lastly as well for me, mate, why? Right, the protocol's ridiculous that you can't call the game back once you've made a decision. Surely, right, breaking that protocol and bringing it back is far less embarrassing and far less damaging than the mess they've got right now.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely correct. Like I said, my thoughts on it are, I tweeted yesterday, like exactly what you just said. you just bring it back. The guy kept saying, didn't he? It was Ollie. Ollie was saying, guys, you need to change. And the guy kept saying, can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. Yes, you can, mate. No one's got a gun to your head.
Yeah.
If you would have just said there, right, stop the game, fourth official, stop the game at the next whatever. You could see the ref put his whistle to his mouth, didn't he? They were about to do it. You watch the video, they're about to do it. And now they've sucked it up, mate. They just absolutely panicked under the pressure. And if they would have done that, what would have happened is Spurs players would have gone nuts, would have kicked off, and it all would have erupted. And then the referee would have spoken to the Spurs captain, Son Heung-min, and said, sorry, we got it wrong. It's a goal, done. And it would have moved on. Okay. Yeah. Might have been we wouldn't be talking about it by now. So they got it wrong there. Secondly, the process has to change, and it is going to change. They can't say check complete. They have to say check complete, give the goal. Check complete, that is offside. Because that was the issue, right? The guy literally was just like check complete. Like, how these, mate?
They didn't even know what they were checking. They were just another thing is like, what, as you say, why don't they say we're looking at whether this is a goal or no goal, offside or what? You know, the lack of communication is staggering. Like, the guy didn't even know what the on-field decision was. It's like, how is that even possible? You've got fuck knows how many people sitting in that room, and not a single one of them thought, guys, we better check this. Let's take a little bit more time with it. Let's just check we've got the right decision. You know, they're not even asked. It's not even saying if goal or no goal or none of it. It's the whole thing's a mess. And like, as you say, the protocol's got to change. I mean, mate, what do you think needs to change? Obviously, with offsides, I don't know why the Premier League thought it was a good idea to reject the semi-automatic offside stuff. That literally sorts it all out. There's no discussion about it. Get rid of these fucking stupid lines that we're drawing everywhere. You know, bring in the semi-automatic stuff, but they turned it down. It worked fine at the World Cup for whatever reason. The Premier League don't want it. And I, to be honest, mate, I think what needs to be done is they need to bring in external people to run the VAR. You know, in terms of get referees that don't know these other referees. So I think a lot of people in the VAR room, because they're colleagues, I think they're scared to undermine their fellow colleagues and telling them they got shit wrong. Do you think what do you think needs to change? Do you think bringing in external people or bringing in foreign referees? Because these guys went out to the UAE and officiated a few days before. Why don't we see more external officials in the league? Surely that's going to be a better thing for us.
Yeah, so there's so much to unpack, isn't there, with VAR? Yeah. Like, firstly, we could have the conversation about, like, should there be technology in football? But I think that's a bit pointless because it's not going anywhere now, is it? It's here to stay. Like, we have to accept that, which there's no point opening that debate. What changes I think need to make straight off the bat is semi-auto offside. So that gets implemented. I don't know why. It was actually the clubs that rejected that. I'm not sure why. But anyway, semi-auto offsides come in. VAR, whether it's external, whatever, like you mentioned, they should be VAR officials. You shouldn't be refereeing a game one week and then in the VAR hub the next. If you are a VAR, you should be a professional VAR. You should not be a referee.
So isn't it? People don't realise how different it is from refereeing. You've got to be a different skill set for it.
Completely different pressure, mate. You saw the officials on Sunday. Like, they talk at 1,000,000 miles an hour. They called each other mate like they're sat in a pub. It's the most informal thing I've come across for such big decisions.
Mate, no one was taking any control of the situation. Everyone was just shitting themselves.
It was it Ollie? Ollie was the only one. He kept, or whoever it was, kept going, Ollie, you need to cancel. But so they're two things that would make a immediate impact, I guess. You have VAR specialists, you have semi-auto offside, but mate, I think we are so far away from any kind of consensus on this working. You know, it's an absolute shambles. I think there's a generation of referees that don't want it. So all the referees that officiate in the Premier League, they're probably anti-VAR. They haven't grown up with it. Basically, what needs to happen is you need like a generation of referees that grow up, or not grow up, but have experience of officiating with VAR, or have experience as a VAR official to come into the Premier League. They're trying to coach these old dogs new tricks. and they're all useless, as you know. It's like they all get it wrong on field anyway, and they've just added another layer, and it's an absolute mess. And
you see, I've seen a lot of people saying, "I'll just get rid of it," but that on-field decision, they would have got it wrong anyway. They gave that offside, so there was no VAR. That still would have been no goal anyway for the on-pitch decision. We've seen it. Like, it's not like, a part of me feels like, goal line technology, great. Offside technology, great. Maybe don't bother with anything else. But at the same time, the amount of mistakes we see. I mean, I was at Chelsea Brighton in the Carabao Cup. There was no VAR in operation there. They flagged Broja offside inside his own half, which you can't even do. They missed a red card challenge from Ugo Chukwu, and Jackson was flagged offside when he wasn't offside for a second goal. So this idea that if you get rid of VAR, everything's going to be fine, you're still going to have people fuming about mistakes being made. And you understand that mistakes are going to be made by referees. You see it once, it's fast. You're going to make the odd mistake here and there. Of course you are. I think people are a lot more forgiving about mistakes if you only see it once. The fact that we're getting the fact that we're getting mistakes when you've got qualified officials sat in the room looking at every single camera angle possible, seeing it multiple times, slow-mo, sped up, whatever way they want to look at it, and we're still getting it wrong. That's unforgivable. That is unforgivable, to be making mistakes when you've watched it back numerous times. I don't know what the answer is, because the problem's not the technology, it's the way it's been implemented. It's the way it's being implemented and who it's being implemented by. I mean, I don't know how we get officials better, but surely bringing in foreign officials should be a starting point.
Yeah, I guess that's an immediate fix that might help, but I honestly think we're talking like seasons upon seasons, and having a crop of referees that have come through a training program and a proper education program, and that won't happen because you're talking about something that's new still. So in the meantime, I just think Howard Webb and his circus are going to have to just focus on trying to do what they can and keep improving the process. Like we've just mentioned straight away, one thing that should mean we never see this situation ever again is just the phrase "check complete, you can now award a goal," or "check complete, you now give the offside," rather than just two words, "check complete," because that will mean this situation won't happen again. But can't say I hold much hope, mate. I'm fully sure that there's more ups and downs to come this season. And like you said, before technology, it's a tough conversation to have because it's not going to change. But before technology, you kind of took it all with a pinch of salt as part of the game. Now it's very hard to take it as part of the game because there's cold hard evidence, and people have that cold hard evidence and are just implementing it wrong. Makes it even harder to digest, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. I mean, until the standard of officiating improves, we're always going to have these problems. And this coming weekend, there's going to be another blunder in one of the games. There's going to be another shocking decision. It happens every weekend without fail. And look, I'm not asking for people to be sacked, but when you consistently do shit in your job, like there are consequences for it. I know Gary Neville's called it, like, if you get stepped down for a few games, it's like being suspended as a player. I kind of sort of get that, but like stepping them down for a couple of games, like, okay, fine, but what does that really do? They're going to come back and make the same mistakes until there's a change in behaviour, a change in education. Then this is just not really going to change. You're going to come back, and there's going to be more mistakes from officials.
What do you think about Klopp? What do you think about Klopp saying replay the game?
Look, you're never going to get a replay, because if you do that, then every team's going to be like, well, hang on a second, this XYZ game here, these decisions here, let's all replay these games. I think Liverpool have handled it. I don't really necessarily agree with Klopp's comments, but I think the statement's important. Like, you might not agree with it, but I think the statement's important because whether it's happened to Liverpool or another club, like, then this needs to be stamped out, regardless of what team it is. I think it's important that they, make their stance felt. And look, yeah, I don't. Look, it's never gonna be a replay. Obviously, you can't go down that route, but I think it's important that the issue becomes highlighted. It's everywhere now. There's no escaping from it, and we just have to do better. It's as simple as that. You have to do better. I'm not saying it's an easy job, but these are basic entry-level mistakes that are being made every single week. And you can't have that. You know, everyone goes on about the Premier League, the best footballing product, the best stadiums, the best everything. Mate, worst officials in world football by an absolute mile. And it just ruins it. It ruins it as a spectacle. It really does. But I mean, even from a fan perspective, mate, do you think they should play the audio in the stadiums? I know not every stadium's got a screen, but when you're in there with a VAR check, all you've got is the board up there. It just says VAR check in progress. You get nothing.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. I don't think I ever wanted to be in a football stadium where you're having to play all these stuff over speakers. Like, I just think it's all rubbish. They could, like I said, mate, if they play the audio over the speakers, all that's going to happen next is, as fans, we're going to disagree with the audio, and it's going to become even more frustrating.
What do you think of the Women's World Cup? I don't know if you saw any of it, where the referee kind of explains the decision by speaking, like after they've looked at the screen. Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen it, but it makes sense. Kind of a bit like rugby.
Yeah, a little bit like rugby. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that would make sense. I guess if a referee made a decision, but again, you're putting these refs under immense pressure. And can you imagine making a decision against a home team and then having to announce it to 60,000 fans?
Yeah,
It would be absolute carnage. It
would be, but I suppose that momentary carnage is probably better than the mass carnage that's being caused at the moment. But look, I think there's going to be mistakes this weekend. There'll be mistakes next week. There'll probably be mistakes every single weekend this season, because that's where we're at right now. But mate, we move away from that. We've got a massive game on Sunday. Arsenal, Man City at the Emirates. Mate, you don't have a good record against City, home or away. It seems to be the one team that you can't seem to beat. How are you feeling? Like, do you feel any different going into this one? I mean, not an awful lot's different.
No, I don't really feel that different going into this one. I still feel like we're going to have to play really, really well, like you always do to beat Man City. But I don't know. No De Bruyne, I guess, is an advantage.
No Rodri either.
No Rodri, of course. No Rodri. I forgot about that. That's massive. So you've got as good a chance to beat him as anyone. But then we're potentially no Saka and no Martinelli, which is absolute killer. Like, they're two most dangerous attackers. So it's going to be really challenging. I would really like to see if Saka is. I don't want to talk about if Saka's out, because I reckon he'll play, actually. You know what Arteta's like. I reckon Saka will play, but I feel like it's going to need to be a raucous atmosphere. We're going to need to come out of the blocks really quickly, and we're going to need to be clinical in both boxes. Last season, we gifted them a goal. I don't know if you remember, Tommy Asu played a terrible pass.
Yeah.
Lobbed the goalkeeper, stuff like that against City. It's hard enough as it is. So if we can avoid those mistakes, we've actually played at home really well against them. We played well against them when Gabriel got sent off, and we played well in parts last season. But yeah, we've kind of just shot ourselves in the foot a bit. We just got to really, really hope Saka is fit, I think, because he can't really be replaced.
If Saka's not fit, what should the plan be? Should it be Jesus on the right hand side, Trossard on the left with Eddie through the middle? Should Jesus go through the middle? Smith Rowe comes in on one of those flanks, or does Havertz go as a 9? You have Trossard and Jesus as wingers, and bring maybe Fabio Vieira into that midfield. I mean, what do you think the best solution is to not having Saka?
Yeah, so I would go Partey fit. So I would play Rice and Partey and Odegaard in midfield, and then I would play Trossard. Trossard hasn't been great on the left. I'm not going to lie. He's not been fantastic on the left. But I would go Trossard, I would go Jesus on the right, and I would go Nketiah through the middle, because I think without Nketiah through the middle, and no Saka and Martinelli, we lack a bit of like pace in behind. We lack a bit of stretch in the back four, and Nketiah offers that. Jesus can do a good job out on the right. He's shown that for Man City when he was there. The left, without Martinelli, is a killer. It's so frustrating. Martinelli is so dangerous. So your options are really Trossard, Reece Nelson. I think I'm not sure he's going to go Reece Nelson in a game of that magnitude. He hasn't trusted him. No, you ain't going to trust Smith Rowe, mate. You go with your trusted players, don't you? So I would probably go Trossard and Nketiah and Jesus. But just I'm saying that Trossard isn't a left winger, mate. He doesn't play on the left. Like for Brighton, he played centrally, and that's where he's effective. So I don't think we're getting the best out of him. But yeah, without Martinelli, we're a bit like kind of tied up.
How worried about this game are you? I mean, obviously it's not a must win by any. I mean, maybe it is. If you want to win the Premier League, maybe it is a must win. I mean, do you think if you want to win the league, this is a must win game?
I don't think so. I don't think no matter what happens, I don't think there's ever going to be a must win in October. But like, yeah, if you've got ambitions to win the Premier League, you're probably going to have to beat Man City at some point. And it's a lot easier to do it at home than away, isn't it? Because if we lose them at home and then you go to the Etihad and lose, that's a huge swing. You make it very hard to win the league.
They've got a good record at the Emirates as well. They turn up there and they tend to win most years. I mean, what do you think you need to do differently? Obviously, it's really tough to play against Man City. Obviously, you saw them. They lost to Wolves. They lost in the Carabao Cup. I mean, maybe that rotated side and whatnot. But I mean, they've got a few players out themselves. No John Stones, no Rodri, no De Bruyne. To name a few, which are all key players. Maybe no Bernardo Silva as well, though some of them might be back fit potentially. But I mean, what do you need to do? Because it's a really tough task. But also, I've got players that can hurt Man City. I guess what make sure you don't make any stupid mistakes would be a starting point.
Yeah, exactly. Though clinical in both boxes, but we set the blueprint as to how to play against them. Like, I don't know if people remember, but the game that Gabriel got sent off in the Arteta COVID game where he done it from home on all or nothing. Like we blew them away, mate. We were absolutely blew them away, and we played a really aggressive front foot pressing style of football. And as I said, we blew them away, and the red card killed us. Normally, I would say stay compact at the back, get the ball to Zinchenko a lot in midfield where he can control the game. We've got Rice now, who's playing really well at the moment. Partey progresses the ball nice, and get the ball and isolate Saka and Martinelli against their fullbacks. But potentially, we're going to be without our two biggest weapons, which makes it a lot tougher. So going back to the first question about how do I feel excited, but I also feel a bit like damp about it because it feels a bit, especially if Saka's not there. If we do have to go against them without Saka and Martinelli, it's like you're taking away your two biggest strengths, and it's like, okay, something special is going to have to happen to win today. But as I said, we've got the tools to beat them. We can beat them. We've played well against them. It's just they're always clutch on the day. But yeah, they're pretty rubbish. Well, rubbish is the wrong word. Their record without Rodri isn't as good, is it? So
no, I mean they've obviously got Mateo Kovacic. They've got Mateus Nunes. They've got the Yorkshire Perlo, Calvin Phillips could be a big moment for him.
Mate, we're linked with him, you know.
Yeah, mate. Obviously, Bernardo Silva could potentially play deeper. I mean, he's a footballer that's so intelligent, so good in so many different positions. They've got options there. Yes, Rodri's going to be a big miss, but I mean, I don't think you lose Rodri and suddenly Man City are shit. They're still going to be bang up for it. They're such a great side. Do you think the fact that your record against them so poor, do you think that has any bearing? Do you think that plays on players' minds when you know that, like, time and time again you've come up against this side and you lose every time? I mean, do you think that has a bearing?
Yeah, I think it does. Like, they're humans. Football is a human being. It's like, I think it's inevitable that they're going to have like that hanging over them. And when you see like Erling Haaland in the tunnel, and it's pretty daunting. But as I said, maybe it'll be different this Sunday. No De Bruyne, no Rodri, two massive personalities in their team. But we've kind of ticked off everything apart from beating City in terms of those hurdles. Obviously, I'm not saying we've won Premier League or anything, but we've ticked off a lot of boxes that we've struggled at or had hoodoos at. The only two that kind of feel like left is to go and win at Anfield and to actually overcome the best team in the league. So yeah, until we do that, it's going to build up every game, isn't it? Every time you play them, it's going to be an added pressure. So no better time than this Sunday, mate.
No, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I mean, do you still think you're City's closest challengers? Because I think Liverpool are bang up there as well. I mean, do you worry about them as well from a perspective of like for that second place? I know whether if you're second or third, it don't really make any difference. But do you see yourself in a title race right now? Do you think you are? I mean, it's too early to say that the title's over in October, but do you generally believe that Arsenal can compete for the title like they did last season again this season?
Yeah, I think we can. I think we can go deep again. I would probably say, like, funnily enough, I think Liverpool losing to Tottenham in the last minute, like as Arsenal fans, it was a bit of a killer, right? Tottenham are rivals. You don't want to see them do well, but I think Liverpool are a much bigger threat to Arsenal than Tottenham are. I think Tottenham are getting pretty lucky at the moment, and they will drop off. I think Liverpool will do the opposite, and they will continue. So, I do think Liverpool are a threat this season, but I do probably think we are probably the biggest threat to Man City, closely followed by Liverpool in the league at the moment. I think that's fair to say. But, mate, if we do lose, I'm thinking negatively. I'm just looking at the table. If we do lose on Sunday, all of a sudden they're on 21 points. They're like got a 4-point gap, and you're starting to think, oh god.
But you can't
stay in touch. Got to stay in touch till Christmas. Stay in touch with them a game or so till Christmas, and then reassess. See how January goes. But if it gets any more than kind of a couple of games, 6 points at Christmas, then you're in trouble. So yeah.
Yeah, mate, it's going to be a fascinating game for sure. I mean, going from probably the game of the weekend to a game that's probably not that exciting for anyone outside of the team, outside of the people that support those sides. Trip to Turf Moor for Chelsea. It's a kind fixture with the greatest of respect to Burnley. They're not great. They play some okay football. They struggled to score goals. A massive win for them against Luton last night. First one of the season. They're still in the bottom three, but that's good, big for confidence. I don't know how much you've seen of Burnley this season, mate. I've not watched a lot. I mean, obviously watched the United game that was on the TV the other week. Vincent Kompany, doing a decent-ish job there. You look at their sort of start to the season. They've won one game last night, of course, but some of the teams they faced, they wouldn't have expected to beat. Both Manchester clubs. They faced Spurs, they faced Aston Villa. Games that you don't expect Burnley to get anything from. I mean, what have you thought? What have you thought about Burnley? Have you seen any of them at all this season?
Not really, other than highlights, I guess. Like I watched the Spurs game. I watched all the highlights of Match of the Day and stuff, but I can't say I've watched much of Burnley. It's just weird, isn't it, with Burnley? Like I just feel like I'm so ingrained in my head that you go to Burnley and it's going to be like
really hard,
really hard, really tough, like 4-4-2, like. But obviously, it's a completely different era now, isn't it? Under Kompany, like trying to play different football, and these games against like Chelsea aren't really going to define their season, are they? Well, I know Chelsea. If you're Kompany, they're going in against you, saying full well,
it's a free hit.
Can get something out of this game. It's a free hit, which makes them probably quite dangerous. But I guess the games that define the season are going to be like last night against Luton, Bournemouth, Everton, the teams around them, isn't it? But yeah, I guess goals, as with those lower teams, who's getting their goals? I guess Foster's their striker, isn't he? Scored last night, but have they got a player that's going to be able to get them like 10 goals, really?
I don't think they do.
About that. No, and that's where they're going to struggle, isn't it?
No, it absolutely is. I mean, I'm expecting a relatively routine win for Chelsea. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but it's a side we should be beating. They're not the best. Yes, they're trying to play on the front foot. It's a totally different proposition going to Burnley under Vincent Kompany than it was going there under Sean Dyche. You knew it was going to be 4-4-2, physical, balls into the box all day long, set pieces. But now Burnley try and they get it on the ground. They try and play it a little bit. They'll come out and have more of a go at you. There will be opportunities. There will be space in behind for the likes of Mudryk, Cole Palmer, etc. to try and exploit. I think we'll get plenty of chances. I think defensively, at most we'll let one goal in, providing we don't have a disaster. I don't think we're going to have too many issues defensively from them. As you say, that Fosto scored a couple, but is he really much of a threat? Koleosho, the decent winger they signed, he looks pretty handy to start with. But yeah, they're just an average side, basically. That I'm not saying they're not good enough for the Premier League. It's too early to tell, but they're not going to pick up many wins. So you know, if you want to get points on the board, and the race for the Champions League spaces is so competitive now with so many more teams involved in it, you have to go to places like Burnley and you have to get the points on the board.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. They're going to struggle, aren't they? They're going to be in a battle for relegation. So it's just they just feel like them and Luton, especially. I guess it's like with all the teams.
Sheffield United are awful as well.
And Sheffield, but it's more like I just feel like they're a bit of an unknown entity, and you just got to trust that your manager isn't going to take them lightly, right? Because they've got to the Premier League for a reason. Vincent Kompany is an exceptionally intelligent football man. He's going to set the team up well, isn't he? And he's going to instruct them well. And, you know, rest assured, he's going to have studied Chelsea's patterns of play like in, day out. So they'll be prepared. It's just one of those where as a kind of side that's expected to win that, you need to go there and do a professional job, be completely on it, do the non-negotiables, press hard, tackle well, take your chances, do the run-in, because if you don't do that, then you don't earn the right to win in the Premier League, do you?
No, there's no easy games. We'll have to turn up and take it seriously. I mean, I expect the team to be exactly the same as the team that played against Fulham. I mean, Caicedo came off at the end with a bit of a... Pochettino said it was a contusion, but I don't even know what a contusion is. Maybe something to do with his back or something, and fuck knows. But they hope he's going to be fit. Mudryk, again, we don't know if he's going to be fully fit for this game. Still waiting to see about that. But the only decision really is going to be whether Nicholas Jackson comes back in to lead the line or whether Broja continues to lead the line himself after the goal against Fulham. I mean, for me, I don't think Broja's still struggling for fitness. He was knackered at 65 minutes against Fulham. He had to come off. I probably would put Jackson back in, and it's good now to have a different option from the bench at centre forward when Jackson's struggled in games. There hasn't really been any way of switching it up unless you went with a false nine, which with the sort of the profile of player we've got is not really ideal. So it's good to have a different option from the bench now. Mate, just on the promoted teams, right? Is it just me, or is this year, are these three of the poorest sides that have come up? I mean, maybe I don't want to group Burnley in just yet because they did smash the Championship last year, but they've not had the best of start. But certainly with the likes of Luton and Sheffield United, I think they're two of the worst teams to come up in recent years. I mean, they're just awful.
Yeah, I think, and when you look at like Leicester and the side Leicester have got, and they've kept their group together, and they're absolutely like spanking everyone in the Championship, it does kind of make you think.
Leicester are better than some of the teams in the Prem at the moment.
Absolutely no doubt about that. They've kept that group together, and they should bounce straight back up. Like, yeah, I agree with you, and it was kind of what I was getting at just now. Like, you look at Luton, Burnley, Sheffield, and there isn't much to be worried about if you're in opposition. I guess it's going to bite teams in the arse. They will pick up points, but like Sheffield, what they've done, played 7, lost 6, haven't they? -14, they're on 1 point.
Yeah.
It's going to be an absolute scrap to the death down there, isn't it? For one place, basically. Who can finish 17th?
No, it is, mate.
And you look at someone like Bournemouth. You look at someone like Bournemouth who have got like a Solanke who's got Premier League experience, can find the back of the net, and that might just be the difference, I guess, between 17th and 18th this year.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at it, and you say, like, do you think the gap between the top of the Championship and sort of the mid to bottom bit of the Premier League is getting bigger? I mean, not all three teams haven't been relegated. All three promoted sides have not been relegated since, I think, 1998. Normally, at least one stays up. I think all of them stayed up last year. But I mean, do you think the gap's getting bigger from sort of the top of the Championship to kind of, bottom half of the mid-table in the Prem? Do you think that gap's increasing?
Yeah, it seems that way. And also, I guess in the Championship, you've got that kind of, I said, I don't follow the league that much. So I'm probably not speaking from a position of knowledge, but you've got that situation where with the playoffs, a team can come good in the playoffs and go up.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the table last year. I guess Burnley, Sheffield and Luton did finish top 3, didn't they? So I guess the best 3 teams over the season did get promoted. So that just goes to show, I suppose, because I think looking now at this point in time, things may change, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if Luton, Burnley, Sheffield, all three went back down. I just think, again, maybe it's just because I'm more familiar with them, but your Bournemouth, your Evertons just have players that are going to get the job done. Goals is the key, right? They've got players that can get goals. Luton, Burnley, and Sheffield just don't really have that. So yeah, the gap between that 17 to 20 and then the mid table is quite substantial, isn't it? When you look at like Forest, Brentford, Wolves, in that mid table, they're good sides.
I mean, I don't even look at Forest this season. I know they just stayed up last year, but I don't look at Forest this year and think they're going to be struggling to stay up. Like, I think, do you know what I think is going to save a lot of teams, like the likes of your Evertons, your likes of your Wolves, potentially your Bournemouths, is that there's going to be three, despite how bad they are, there's going to be three teams that are worse than them, and that's probably what's going to help a lot of these sides out that are struggling. Just the fact that Sheffield United and Luton are just so poor. I mean, mate. Look, Luton's a great story in that. Look, we're sort of talking down on promoted clubs. I mean, we may well go and lose at fucking Burnley on Saturday, and I might look pretty stupid after this. But I mean, you just look at the squads of Sheffield United and Luton, particularly. They're just not Premier League quality at all. Like, I don't look at those sides, and I just think those two teams were in the Championship. They wouldn't be in the top three right now.
No, exactly. And I'm just looking at, like, let's take Luton as an example, because for me, they're the biggest kind of unknown entity, because they're new to the Premier League completely, aren't they? And I'm looking at who they brought in, and they're just, like you said, you kind of feel like to stay up, you need that almost marquee, don't you? That guy that's going to be your talisman.
They got Ross Barkley.
They signed Lokonga on loan from us, didn't they?
Isn't he injured though? I think I've seen somewhere.
Yeah, he got injured. Chong, Marvelous, Nakamba. Like, these are Championship players. They're not Premier League players. And I'm sure if you looked at Sheffield and Burnley, it's probably not too far similar. I guess the one thing about Burnley is they've got Vincent Kompany, and he's completely transformed the style of play there. I'm not saying Sheffield and Luton didn't play well last year, but I feel like Burnley might have a little bit more of a shot potentially. But again, if you're asking me now, those three, you can't really look much further, can you? Those three to go back down.
No, you absolutely can't. I mean, I still think Burnley are the most likely to get out of it. I think for 17th place, it's going to be, for me, it's between Burnley, Everton, Wolves and Bournemouth. One of those four teams will go down with Luton and Sheffield United. I mean, it's October and it's ridiculous to say, but I think it's safe to say right now that I think Sheffield United and Luton are gone. I think there's literally, you're looking at
Wolves one. Will be fine. Got to think Wolves will stay up, haven't you?
Yeah, you would think so, just given the fact that those three teams are so much worse. But I mean, mate, to round out score predictions, let's start with Burnley, Chelsea, because it's not as big a game. I'll go. I think we'll win this one 2-0. I'm confident. I've got a bit more confidence in the game on Monday night. We're on a good run of form, back-to-back wins, and hopefully we can make it back-to-back wins in the Premier League for the first time this season. I think. Look. It'll be maybe a bit closer than people think, and there might be some tough moments in the game for us, but I think the quality should shine through eventually. I think we'll probably win this one 2-0. Burnley, Chelsea for you, mate. Can you see anything other than a Chelsea win?
Yeah, I can't see anything other than a Chelsea win. I think, I said, Burnley have shown some good stuff, haven't they? First day against City, they got beat, but they played some really good attacking football. They got a couple of goals at home against Spurs, but I'm going to say that they'll get a goal, so I'm going to go 3-1 Chelsea.
And mate, the big one at the Emirates Sunday, massive game. Arsenal, Man City, key players missing potentially for both sides. Shouldn't make it any worse of a spectacle, but for me personally, I think Arsenal have done well this season. They're more efficient. They grind results out. They play an exciting brand of football, but I don't think it's unfair to say that a lot of this hinges on whether Bukayo Saka's fit or not. If he's fit, Arsenal have definitely got a much better chance. If he's not, then I think they're going to struggle, particularly with Martinelli missing as well. I'd probably say, I think it'll be close. I'm going to go for a 2-1 City win. What are you saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 1-1, and the reason behind that is I think if Arsenal are missing our stars, and Martinelli in particular, and potentially Saka, I think it might make us a little bit more conservative, and we've played more conservative this season anyway. I don't think City would be devastated with a point. It kind of would suit them okay, especially without De Bruyne and Rodri away from home at the Emirates. So I think it might be. I actually think it might be a bit less of a spectacle than people are hoping for, the neutrals, and I reckon it will be a 1-1 draw.
Fair. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Certainly going to be another exciting weekend of Premier League football. But guys, thanks so much for tuning in as always. On the way out, people, make sure you run the likes up. I haven't mentioned it much this stream tonight, so make sure you smash the like button, guys. Get this up towards 50 likes and beyond. So please do hit the like button on the way out. It's really helpful. Smash the subscribe button as well, guys. On the road to 7,000 subscribers, edging closer now. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, run the likes up. Webby, thanks so much for your time. As always, mate, massively appreciated. Let's see what happens with the boys this week. We'll be back next week with another edition of the show, people. So stay tuned for that. But until next time, guys, take care, up the Chelsea, and peace out, people.